discussed on the break was that for the other phase, for the phase owned by SDP Fox Hollow, that they would like 2 options, so that one option be that they be, if they do single family, that they can meet these criteria, but if they do multifamily, that they could meet our MF10 requirements. So that's already in our code. They would meet the open space requirements for that and setbacks and things like that. And so I don't know, what they're wanting, they don't know if townhomes will work there, but they're wanting the flexibility to either do townhomes in that phase or single family. So they're saying that they could either, that for their, let me go back, for this area that's white right here, they would need some commercial in here. So the table right here says that the total acreage in here is 22 acres with 10 acres of commercial. So that leaves 10 acres for open space and residential. And so yeah, you have a detention basin on the corner here, which would count towards open space. This table is saying 3 acres of open space and 9 acres of residential, and so they're saying within that 12 acres, which the detention basin is going to be about 2.5 acres. And so if it was a single family option, that leaves a half-acre park. Our concern is that if it's a multifamily project, what does that mean? And so they said that if it's possible, they would like the flexibility to do either single family similar to this or a townhome development similar to our MF10 zone.
So, question. So we're going to be potentially, right? Not we are, potentially we're transferring X amount. How much open space?
5 acres.
5 acres, and so if they went, they would, what am I trying to say? They'd have to add an additional on top of what we're transferring. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
5 plus more?
One challenge that you throw in is there's a detention basin already in the corner, and it's about 2.5 acres, and so then the way they have it now, that detention basin counts towards open space, but you know, when you have a multifamily project, how do we want that to count? And you know, does the MF10 zone include that acreage or not include that acreage? So
Did that detention basin ever get used for open space credits for another development?
no, it's specific for the Fox Hollow development for
For neighborhood 4?
Yeah,
Did that
this-
detention basin get used for open space for neighborhood 2 or neighborhood 1?
no.
It's never been used for open space
Fully developed.
No, it hasn't. No other neighborhood has received open space credit for
for
it.
that detention basin. Okay, just want to clarify. The density from the reduction from the first phase to this, are they wanting all of that density to be able to go into the other side?
No, so they were comfortable. They felt like, well, if I understood what we said out there, that you thought that you could do a townhome development with 9 units per acre, which is the density that you're asking for. So they're comfortable with not transferring unused density. So like if the density that's granted is 9 units per acre and this phase uses 6 units per acre, they're fine with this remaining phase still having a cap of 9 units per acre.
Going to 12. Okay.
Yeah, right. Right?
So I guess the concern I have is if we transfer some open space, we have no concept plan, how can we tell that they're going to meet the requirements if they come in? There's no way to tell.
Well, right, that could be a condition. So it could be that they either meet
Minimum
these
open-
requirements or they meet the MF10 requirements.
Excluding the density.
Excluding that extra density.
Right, so it's all the development standards in the MF10 zone except for the density, because the density is being reduced per the MDA. So they'd have to, does that make sense?
So the density is the MDA, all setbacks and open space is the MF10.
MF10, right.
But MDA is saying this is 9 units from the acre across the entire neighborhood 4. So that again doesn't give us protection, because they could take what density they're not using in this first half of this neighborhood 4 and transfer it over if we're just going by the MDA.
No, they've changed a table where it's the total density for the entire project is being reduced by the amount that's being reduced in neighborhood 4. If you look at the table, that's going to be one of the exhibits to the MDA.
Well,
It shows that reduction.
right, but what we,
Is that what you were saying?
no, the concern that, Councilwoman Barch was discussing was that in neighborhood 4, if they're allowed 9 units total and one phase only uses 6, there's a concern that they transfer that, so then the other phase would end up having like 12 units per acre.
Right, the phases? No transfer between.
Oh, sorry, here's the,
So you want an average of 9 through the whole
No,
neighborhood?
they don't want average 9 for the whole thing. That means they take what's left over and shove it into the other part.
He's saying you want
Oh,
actual average. At the end of the day.
Not average, proportionate.
Right.
Proportion, yes, so
Yeah.
whatever their particular acreages they're actually.
I think you already
using
agreed
for
not to
housing,
exceed
that
9 to the 8.
so we don't want, yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
I don't think we're gonna be able to get around it.
So, and it's difficult because we don't have phasing numbers. We could state that the SCP-owned portion be allowed either these requirements or adhere to the MF10, but not exceed 9 units per acre.
So I have a question for the applicant, if I could. We've kind of been dancing around a lot of changes. Do you want to move forward tonight, or do you want to postpone until next meeting, get all this solidified, so that we're not making a rush decision about something that could have, pretty lasting impacts, as well as give the council the opportunity to kind of see this in a final format? I'm sorry, third week in June. So the next meeting in June.
So can you get?
I would prefer staff to
Anyway.
look at.
The only concern I've got is
Maybe.
this is kind of a sausage, approval here, and I just want to make sure that everyone knows what's going into it.
Right, I would tend to agree with you. Unfortunately, it's very complex, and I think, we don't want to second guess ourselves, and we don't want to put anyone in a situation where, they're limited, or we've limited the city. So I would probably tend to agree with, moving it. Is there any way of getting on the May 30th to coming back?
That's a special session that we just needed to be quick. Proven not to be quick. Fox Hollow has proven. Yeah, I don't have the time. I have to get out pretty quick.
And we wouldn't have to go back to planning commission. We could just come back here.
In essence, we'd table it while we make sure this motion works for everybody.
And could we move forward with the Richmond America plat, so that potentially their preliminary plat could be heard by planning commission, the first part of June, if they're ready to go?
Yeah, I'm not a planner, don't look at me.
Yeah, you can. The only concern is it doesn't meet the existing MDA, and so we couldn't schedule it. You could go ahead and submit it, but we couldn't schedule it until this agreement was finalized.
Could we share a draft of the motion here with the planning commission?
Well, I mean, then they would be making a condition on that being finalized. Based on the timing and how long it takes to get through a review with preliminary and get scheduled, you'd be fine to submit.
What do we have on May 30th right now?
Cindy, we have the approval of the water contract project. I apologize, I left my sheet back in my office.
We didn't have a quorum, even if Councilman Comber had to leave.
He has to leave.
I may not be here yet.
Council board member.
I won't be here. I may be on.
He won't be here. I may need a quorum, and if he has to leave.
I've already committed to some family stuff with the community.
I wanted to keep it to 30.
The other challenge is the staff report is for the planning department's due next Monday. So they have less than 6 days.
Well, the plan that you're bringing in, not you, sorry, you would comply with what we originally wanted to propose. So we could approve it as the conditions we have now, and you could submit your thing, and then you could bring in another amendment at some time specific.
Or is to your point, yeah, he's actually giving your argument.
But I don't know if she really.
Approve it, the whole thing with this, and if
That's
they
the only
want to
way I
change it,
see
they
it.
have to bring another.
I'll add that.
Which,
Yeah, you could.
If we're,
Go backwards on this. He's going to ask that,
Are you asking for more density?
if he's asking the town to use.
Yeah, I mean, that's the flag is, we've got some numbers that are amended in this particular staff report.
with the 9.
we have more than, I didn't realize, I don't know that planning realized we had a 30-minute restriction, and we have several tentative items, but that we'll have to rediscuss already, so it's not a good idea to add it to that one.
But what I'm saying, you don't have to sign it, but at least we've approved a motion that you could bring something to the plenary while that's approved.
Question for Cardinal, is the deal with Richmond, is that just for Cardinal's property?
Yes,
So you could sign the agreement with these conditions, and SCP could just withhold signing it until they're comfortable with it, and they could come back for an amendment, that just affects the SCP Fox Hollow property.
yeah, that's what I was going to ask, if we could approve it for the Cardinal side, so that we could move forward with Richmond now.
The challenge is the open space isn't distributed that way. So it's not distributed proportionately per, so,
Is it 5 acres on just one property, or is it split between the two?
No, it's a split.
So let's move 2.5. We can move.
Yeah, we could move it to another area.
No, what I'm saying, not do all
Only
5.
transfer 2.5, so we're transferring.
And then leave the,
Property, not the.
But if it's more, since the land is split up by thirds, could we move a third of the 5 acres?
yeah, we're 2/3 and they're 1/3, basically.
so it's not an even split.
Sorry, I know that you guys want to move forward, but me personally, getting too convoluted. And something that's going to affect the Redwood Road frontage, like all of these, yeah. 4 doors for 1,200 homes above them, it's too much.
Let's get feedback on whether or not we're comfortable discussing multifamily if we're talking about an open space transfer. And then we'll bring that back. I think that's good direction to provide.
So you're talking townhomes?
Right, townhomes.
Are we talking duplexes, triplexes?
Duplexes, triplexes. Different than townhomes, so
Well,
we're
no,
talking,
Townhomes could be a 5.
well, they can also be 2 or 3.
right, but we
Yeah.
have a different zone.
In our referendum, they're classified differently, and anyhow, so please provide feedback on that, and that will help us as we work on some changes.
I'm fine with that as long as we've capped the density. And it would actually encourage more open space. Homes is long being put together. So to me, it's not necessarily the unit type when you're not talking condos. Various homes or apartments or kept together. So I'm fine with that as long as we cap the units. But if we're trying to get more units and what we had before.
For me, they would need to meet the open space requirements for all the requirements, but then they can't transfer it.
I don't know, part of me would like to see.
But they got- We can feather it.
There you go.
until the
So the third week of June.
Have a motion, Councilwoman Barsh, have a second. I'll second. Have a second, Councilman Porter. Discussion. Roll call, Councilman Porter,
Aye.
Wilden,
Aye.
Comber.
Aye.
Saratoga, Barsh.
I was just going to say, do we,
missed this. Well,
You missed his
Well,
chance
he
to
actually was
discuss.
trying in between.
yeah, the question I would ask is, do we want to do 2 meetings back-to-back in June and miss the first week for Splash? Hit the second, have a second week, and then,
Yeah, I'm out of town.
I should be back by then.
Then why have the May 30th meeting?
just to approve the contract for construction?
No.
Let's
Leave it as it is.
leave it as is.
Okay. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
We have no need for any longer of a meeting. Thank you.
Good audition.